COD. Man, we would play great, all for you. Capturing, but never captured. You're my COD. Not your sister, Pickle Timber. You're my Tijuana. I'm an artist, took a life, and we chewed up, left you left us. You're my Tijuana.
It's all right, Jeremy. I don't necessarily need a mic. I'll be all right.
Testing. Go good. This is on. It's functioning. Ladies and gentlemen of Camden County and the community, I'd like to welcome you to our public forum and debate and question and answer session with our commissioner candidates. And I'm going to just do a little bit of kind of some housekeeping first. So friendly reminder, if this is your first time being here, or if you just need a reminder, restrooms are going to be out the doors over to the left, and they'll be in that corner right there if you do need them. Do not think you're going to interrupt anything. You know, get up and go if you need to. On top of that, I would just like to remind everyone that if you have your cell phones, do put them on silent mode. That would be respected. On top of that, you can see there are several recording devices. If you yourself would like to record this for posterity so that you can review it later, That way you can make the best informed decision for the candidate you wish to lead in this position moving forward as presiding commissioner. It is probably one of the most important local offices, and myself with We the People, Les Larson with the Republican Club, John Beckett with the Republican Central Committee, we have worked together to bring this event to you because we feel it is very important that our potential leadership is representing you, our community, and it's only fair that you as our community have a chance to interact with our potential representatives. So the way we're going to roll out with this is I have asked our team behind me to give themselves, I'm going to give them a 3-minute window. I do have my phone up here for timer purposes. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We'll get everything officially rolling for about 6:30, which is going to be shortly. We're going to go, and I'm going to respect everyone's time, and we're going to cut it off at 8:30. Y'all don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And so with that in mind, I'm going to give everyone a 3-minute introduction that I've already notified them of so that they could prepare who they are, why they feel they are the best candidate for this position, and their top 3 priorities coming into this election cycle. So should they be elected, what their top 3 priorities will be. I then have a list of approximately 20 some odd questions. I may not be able to get to all of them because I want to be respectful of people's time. And some of the questions may be able to be answered of all. Some of the questions may just be directed towards a couple of our candidates based on their experiences. They may be the only ones that can answer the question. So, without further ado, I'd like to just take a minute and open in prayer. So, Father God, in the name of Jesus, your Son, our Savior, we would ask that you open our eyes and ears, hearts and mind, to hear the answers that the candidates will give us, not the answers we think they say. Thank you for the people who have come to enable us to wisely choose as you've given us this type of government. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. And so, let me just get my timer set up here. Oh, great. Let me see here. Yes, we are. So, without further ado, I'm just going to start, and we're going to go from left to right. And so, I'm going to hand the forum now over to Mr. Franken, who will be our first speaker.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Nice warm evening. My name is Chris Franken. I've been a Lake resident for 28 years. I have operated my own small business the entire time that I've been at the lake, with the exclusion of the 4 years between 2011 and 2014 when I did serve in the office of presiding commissioner. I am married to my lovely daughter Olivia, who is 16 and will be a junior at Camden coming up when the school year starts. So the business that I currently have, that I've operated for 28 years, is a construction business. Started off as full-line construction. I still do full-line construction, but have branched off to where I really am more specifically a septic installer here of late. I hold the Missouri State certifications for septic installation. I hold the certification for real estate inspections for septics, if you're going to buy a new home, or new home to you. So those certifications that I have are one of the things that help me to be able to bring expertise to infrastructure issues in Camden County. I'm going to kind of move into one of the reasons why I'm the best candidate up here to serve the county again. Let's start off with education. It boils down to 3 things: education, experience, and past practice. My education, I hold a degree in engineering, specifically metallurgical engineering from Missouri S&T. And I am also a published research scientist in the field of extractive metallurgy. I already told you about my septic certifications that I have. I also hold all of the FEMA specifications that are required for presiding commissioner, and I'm the only one up here that holds those certifications. So if there's ever a major disaster in Camden County, you can be assured that we will have local control, because without those certifications, FEMA can supersede the lead official for the county. So we want to make sure that that never happens. So that's my education portion. My experience, I've been building roads, bridges, homes, commercial structures, infrastructure such as septic and potable water systems for 28 years. And I'm not just refereeing crews that do it. I'm doing it myself. I'm in the ditch. I know how to do it hands-on. That's something that I can bring to the table that nobody else can. When I was in the last time, the roads were in some of the best conditions in decades. And if you guys choose to put me back in the office, I can assure you that that and the budget will be brought back into spec where they need to be so the county can operate successfully.
Time. Thank you, sir.
Hello. I am Lydia.
Hold on a second. We're going to... We want that to stop interrupting you. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, we'll start as soon as you do.
Okay, very good. Well, good evening. I am Lydia Porter, and I live in Four Seasons, Missouri, with my husband, David, and our German Shepherd, Mopsy. And by the way, David is from Sunrise Beach. My connection to the lake exceeds 35 years as a visitor and 4 years as a permanent resident here. My formal education includes a bachelor's degree in business and history from Mid-American Nazarene College and an executive fellow's master's in business administration from Rockhurst University in Kansas City. Professionally, I have worked in healthcare settings, both urban and rural, for approaching 38 years. And I worked as a healthcare consultant after retiring from Truman Medical Center in Kansas City, which took me to Chicago to re-engineer front and back-end finance processes for the Kindred organization on the East Coast. After returning home to Kansas City, I eventually accepted a position at the Lake of the Ozarks here to lead a healthcare consortium to fight the opioid addiction that has so gotten a grip on our community. Determined to leave an imprint from that experience, I reached out to various individuals and organizations, and together we pulled together supporters and donors and launched, with private money, the Beam Lighthouse Recovery Community Center, now located on the Bagnell Dam Strip. The Beam opened November 2021, and I smile about this. We had the largest ribbon cutting ever, according to Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, because people came from all over the lake to celebrate the opening of this non-medical facility to deal with alcohol and drug addiction and to offer a sober environment for community members. So you might ask me, why are you running for presiding commissioner? Well, I see an opportunity to serve you all, the people of Camden County, with a focus on solutions. Every county has challenges, but I bring to the table quality and hands-on experience that benefit you, the taxpayer, to deal with these challenges, however daunting they may appear. I am courageous. I swim against the tide. I know how to lead people and manage scarce resources of time and money. I'm a good listener, and I communicate, connect, and collaborate to get things done. I want to tackle issues we presently face. My top 3 issues that I've identified, yes indeed, include road and bridges, planning and zoning, and fixing our propensity to find ourselves entangled in expensive, time-consuming situations of litigation. Troubleshooting, creating sustainable remedies to these problems is what I do. And I won't do these alone, I'll do them by building a team. This is who I am. I lead organizations. This is why I feel I am your best choice for the next presiding commissioner of Camden County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hasty, are we else? Okay. As soon as you start, we'll go ahead and start your time. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I've been fairly quiet over the last couple of years. Not tonight. Tonight I'm making a stand for Camden County. 8 years ago, the people had had enough. They wanted someone who had the knowledge and ability to be an effective leader. They wanted results. They had had enough of Chris Franken. Since I took office, we have gone from 18th or 19th in the state in terms of financial strength to 7th, according to S&P. The stuff's right down there to look at. My commission cleaned up Camden County. This resulted in the first 2 clean audits in recent history. During my term, we have spent more money on roads, employee raises, and sheriff's deputy pay than ever in history. While many counties in Missouri are struggling because of the decisions they made during the pandemic, Camden County has set economic records 2 years in running. Folks, results matter. During my term, Camden County has become one of the most successful counties in the nation. So, the question is, how is Camden County doing? The answer is better than ever. However, our community stands at a crossroads. Are we going to continue to allow a small group of people to bully the entire community? They want you to believe that everyone else is a liar and a crook but them. They actually had the audacity to go around and give slanderous information to pastors at our churches. They use buzzwords like transparency. I'll give you transparency. I requested the first ever full state audit of Camden County and then rebuilt our entire accounting system to fix what was broken. I run a successful business in Camden County for 40 years. Through careful management, I've kept my business afloat through good times and bad. On the other hand, Ike Skelton has demonstrated no financial skills at all. He ran his business into the ground and left creditors hanging in Lebanon. He can't read a budget, let alone make one. He is not competent to do this job. The Camden County Bully Bunch have chosen a locksmith from Lebanon as their candidate. This man doesn't have a clue about Camden County or how to run it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let him finish his time.
I have almost 50 years of knowledge as a professional surveyor, land developer, real estate broker, and commissioner in Camden County. I have a proven record of leadership. Just look around. We're incredibly successful.
15 seconds.
Vote for a proven leader that you can trust and re-elect Greg.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Skelton, let's just reset the time. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ike Skelton. I was born and raised in Missouri, and first of all, thank you all for showing up. I believe it's very important that people are involved in what's going on in their community, because at the very local level is where it's the most important. I was born and raised in Missouri. I graduated out of Herman High School. After graduation, I joined the United States Army. I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice after, and started working for child support enforcement. I've also worked for family services in St. Louis. I've been a heavy equipment operator with local operating engineers, Local 513 out of St. Louis. Then I came down here to Lake of the Ozarks and tried to be a landscaper, and that didn't work. So I have failed at a business, but I've also been successful at business. As a locksmith, I did open up a successful business in Lebanon. It's been there for about 8 years. My nephew now runs it. And I have taken over my brother's business here in Lake of the Ozarks and expanded it. A few summers ago, last summer, some friends of mine came to me and they said there was a need in Camden County, and I kind of saw it as well, and they asked me to run for this position. I've been involved in politics for a very long time. The Tea Party movement really brought me into where I could be effective in politics. I've been up to Jefferson City. I've lobbied numerous times. I helped get a pro-life bill passed through the House that would have deemed unborn babies to be persons. They would have had to have been saved then. I've also worked on a property rights bill, which is an anti-Agenda 21, if you're familiar with that. I'm very familiar with how Jefferson City works and how government works in general. I believe that government should be the very smallest that it can possibly be, spend the least amount of money that it can possibly spend to ensure that services that you want and have are available for you. It is and I believe that no one who's ever not had the position before as a commissioner is going to know exactly what's going on until they've had the job. That's just the way it is. It's an elected position. You can read about it, you can try to study about it, but until you've done it, you're not going to know exactly how that job is. I believe that I have the overall skills through life to bring to the Camden County Commission, to bring people back together. There is a great division in this county. I've been talking to people all over this county, courthouse and beyond, and there is definitely division in this county, and they're looking for new leadership. I'd appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be that leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skelton. Mr. Patton, whenever you're ready.
Hello, I'm Nathan Patton. I'm running for this office because I've seen stuff, and also being an Eagle Scout, I have the leader position to lead this county to back where it should have been 30, 40 years ago when we had stuff that people came here for. Being an Eagle Scout, there's not many people that actually get that honor. It's only 4% get that honor to be a Eagle Scout. And I got that 2007. And that's the greatest compliment I ever made in my life. If I get the offer to take this job right here, I'm going to make another accomplishment in my life. Making this county better than I found it, better than I was born in, and better for the next generation that comes through. The roads, the bridges, I've been through a lot of roads, and they look so horrible, I don't even want to drive my own truck through them. If I get this job, that will be fixed. And I live on a great road myself, and I've been there for 33 years. It took them a year to grade this road. And now it's almost 6 months later, and it's back the same way it was again. If I get this job, I will fight for the people of this county. I will fight for the schools of this county. And top it all off, I will bring Assess back to this county where it should have been 4 years ago, maybe even 12 years ago. Thanks to the people that I know in this county. And I know some people that are not in this county that live here, they're not here tonight. But I appreciate all the people that showed up. God bless you. Thank you for your being here. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patton. So as you guys can see, our candidate board brings a very diverse background of experiences, education, skills. I appreciate that each one of you took time to answer the questions that we put forth for the introduction. Now, I'm going to work through some of these. During your introduction, you've actually answered and addressed a couple of these questions already. So, I am going to start with one that came from the community of Max Creek. What's that? We'll go with a 2-minute answer on this particular question. There's a good chance that, depending on how this, I'm going to word this as best I can for the person who brought the question to my attention. It is possibly something that either Mr. Franken or Mr. Hasty would be able to address first, and then I will have Ike, Lydia, and Nate go ahead and weigh in on the topic, because it would be something that they may or may not have experience with. So to start, Mr. Franken, it says, I understand that the Max Creek Community Park that was started by members of the community has come to be in the possession of the county. It appears the county has failed to continue caring for and improving the park as well as the community members did. What is your plan to either properly care for this property or to return it to the citizens of Max Creek? So if you'd like to weigh in on that topic, I'm not sure if you were in office at that time or if that was part of it. As a matter of fact,
I was.
Great.
So the Camden County came into possession of the Max Creek Park after the dissolution of the city. So the city voted to dissolve. So really, technically, Max Creek does not exist anymore. Because that park had received money from federal grant, it had to be taken over and become the possession of another political subdivision, and the only one that was capable of doing that would either be Camden County or the Max Creek School District. The Max Creek School District declined to take possession, so Camden County took possession of it. So it was kind of a liability at first that got dropped into our lap because it was an issue, and it was not something that Camden County didn't own any parks at that time. We don't have a Parks and Recs department. We don't have any of those things. So we kept it mowed, we kept it accessible, and we did what we could. We were still in a situation where we were rebuilding from the overspending from 2008 and 2009, which is another completely different subject. So, but we kept it where it was a community center that people could still come and use. Now, there were improvements that they wanted to make, like bathrooms, and they wanted to add equipment, do things that you do at a park. And we did not get that done because it was not anything that we were getting into the budget at the time. But we did try to work with the citizen group out there to at least have a plan so that if funds became available or we got donations, or there's a lot of different ways that you can handle improving a facility like a park.
30 seconds.
We could go ahead and move into that. And that's really, from my aspect of being in the last time, that is exactly what happened and where we were at with it. And I'll turn this over to Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Hasty. As soon as you start, we'll give you 2 minutes as well. After all, you've been the presiding commissioner since Mr. Franken, so it would appear you have the next most experience with this particular topic. Whenever you're ready.
Well, the factual information that Chris gave with regard to this up to the point where I took office is accurate. That is the circumstances that took place. When we took over, we put together a committee for the park. Obviously, some things went on with regard to the bathroom. We rebuilt the bathroom, and then we did some other improvements to the park to make it to where it is usable as a park, and we maintain it. But we attempted an opportunity to really expand the park and turn it into something, but the committee that was involved there, we had some people that were wanting to get funding, but the situation with our budget, just simply the type of money that they were wanting, wouldn't allow us to do the type of thing that we needed to do. So at this point in time, we fixed the bathroom, we've got it functional, and we just maintain it.
Thank you very much. So it would appear, even as I'm a new member of this particular community, that this was something that, because the town dissolved, the county was the next available owner, if you will. However, the county was not expecting this type of expense to be brought into their budget. So I guess my next question would be, if I was a member of this area, because several people asked about it, would there be an opportunity to create an aspect of budget moving forward in this upcoming term where it could be handled? Is that something that's a possibility? And that would just be a short, I guess, yes or no. Is that something that can be done by any one of you should you end up in this position? If you'd like to.
I mean, the answer is never no. It's just going to depend upon what the actual financial status of the budget is. And you have to prioritize things. There are a lot of things that need to be addressed. And while I know that park is super important to the people of Max Creek, and I would like to see it be a good structure for them to be able to use, a good facility, it's going to take a back seat to roads and bridges for me personally, to roads and bridges, and to making sure that the employees are taken care of, and to making sure that all of our other infrastructure that we're responsible for the entire county has to come first. But if there's something that we can do to improve that facility, maybe through some partnerships, absolutely.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to weigh in on this topic?
Quickly, I'd like to say I appreciate hearing the history behind the park and the dissolution of Max Creek, and that Camden County or the school district had to take possession. So thank you, fellows, for advising us on that history. I totally agree with the fellows as far as making it usable, being able to make it as pleasant as budget has allowed, and also to look at options down the road for outside funding that we may be able to receive outside of our usual revenue streams for the budget.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton, if you'd like to weigh in on this community.
I think one of the most important things we have to focus on is people. And I think the people in Max Creek have been waiting about 12 years to get their park squared away. I think that when you focus on people, you can take a little bit and put it into that park. Maybe the people in Max Creek want their park back. If there's some way of getting it back to them, I think that'd probably be one of the first things you could do. Otherwise, do put some, you can't build everything all at one time. I guarantee you, with as much money as in this, government has more money now than they have ever had at any time in the history. It's out there. We just have to prioritize what we're going to spend it on. Road and bridge is number one, I have to agree. And by the way, not a whole lot of people have been talking about road and bridge until we started bringing it up in the Skelton campaign. So I'm glad some focus is being brought on road and bridge, and I hope that we can continue that. So I would do one of two. I would either give a little bit now, let it get going, maybe a little bit further down the road, or give it back to the people.
Time. Thank you, sir. Mr. Patton is one of the youngest members of this board. However, you do have a history of living here. I don't know if you've enjoyed that park. What would you have to say to weigh in? I give you 1 minute.
Well, I actually know where that park's at, and like Mike said, we need to get back to the community. There are plenty of people over there, wonderful people living over there. I actually know a few. That park, when I was growing up, I used to go over when I was a kid all the time. I can name 4 of the parks that they make me sick even walking into them anymore. I mean, even the city park is the same way. There's no trees around the pavilion. I mean, I used to walk, when I was a kid, I used to climb them trees. It's the same thing over there in Matt Creek. There's plenty of trees when I was a kid. I used to climb them.
15 seconds.
So, I mean, if I get elected, I will find a way to get money back over there, find or help somebody to get money over there. We can get that stuff fixed.
Thank you, sir. The next extremely hot topic, Lydia touched on it in her introduction, is regarding litigation. Obviously, I'm not going to ask any questions pertaining to any court cases that are currently in effect. This question is simply from a generic point of information. Again, because this would be a presiding commissioner, I believe, would be in on this information, I will start this time with Mr. Hasty and then allow Mr. Franken to follow up. So, in the unfortunate event of a lawsuit involving a county employee, at what point does the county provide legal counsel at taxpayer cost versus when is the employee on the hook for their own legal representation in their own cases? Mr. Hasty, if you could weigh in on that.
Okay.
2 minutes on that. I understand it'll be a stronger answer. So when you're ready, we'll start.
That is typically determined by our insurance carrier. In most cases, unless there's some real compelling reason why, for instance, laws have been violated or some heinous thing, the insurance carrier is always going to cover the costs related to any employee. But we do have situations in which there are issues that go beyond just what the insurance company is willing to do, and circumstances related to that that are sometimes compel the commission to have outside counsel. You quickly find out after you become a commissioner that someone is always trying to sue the county. Some people, occasionally, it's something legitimate. Very frequently, it's not. It's just someone trying to hit our insurance company for money. Frequently, the insurance company hires an attorney to represent the county, but the reality is that attorney that gets hired by the insurance company is really interested in covering
30 seconds.
the interest of the insurance company and not the county. They often like to cut a deal, and there are times when Camden County Commission decides there's no cutting a deal on this. We're going to try this case because you can never lower the insurance premiums until you put a stop to frivolous lawsuits.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Franken, while you were presiding commissioner, as Mr. Hasty has pointed out, I'm sure there was no shortage of people wanting to sue the county.
Well, during my tenure, the commission was never saddled with a lawsuit. All the lawsuits that we had were related to the sheriff's department. And every time that we had a lawsuit, that insurance company appointed attorney was all of the legal representation that we used. And yes, sometimes there was a deal, sometimes there wasn't. It just depended on what the case was. It's like any other thing. It works its way through the court system, the facts become available, and then decisions were made on whether or not they were going to litigate or they were going to attempt to settle. Under no circumstances, in my personal opinion, should there ever be additional counsel hired when the insurance company has decided that they're going to hire a lawyer. And to my knowledge, all lawsuits in the last 12 years that have come forward, the insurance company has ponied up a lawyer. Those lawyers, you're paying for them in increased insurance premiums. And so therefore, those are the lawyers you should be using. I'm going to tell you, these guys are not cheap lawyers. They are when I was in, they were $300 an hour lawyers because I saw the invoices that came through to the insurance company. So we're not talking about just run-of-the-mill people. These are people with experience. These are people that have got credibility in the courtroom. And yes, they are working mostly, they're covering the insurance as well as the county, and maybe not the county as much as some people might think they should. But at the end of the day, that's what we're paying for. And any additional lawyers that we hire for that to handle issues like that is like throwing money down the toilet. It's that simple. And we've thrown $983,000 of that money down the toilet in the last 4 years.
10 seconds, sir. Oh, well, all right then. That worked.
I didn't get my full time. I'd like to respond to that.
I apologize. I heard you want to respond. What allegation or part that Chris brought up are you responding to? Well, just to clarify.
You know, people are always talking about frivolous lawsuits. I've got a letter here from Chris Franken dated January 27th, 2015, where he made a $2.6 million demand on Camden County, threat of a lawsuit if they didn't settle quietly. There's a bunch of copies of that letter right down here.
Thank you for providing a rebuttal to that allegation. It'll be up to you guys afterwards if you'd like to obtain the paperwork so that you can make an informed decision. Ike?
So if you can sue the Department of Corrections of the state of Missouri to have chunky peanut butter instead of smooth, you can sue just about anybody for anything, and then that really did happen. So you can't prevent everything, but what you can mitigate it by making sure that everything that you do is absolutely above board in front of the people, and the people have knowledge of everything that is going on to the very best of your ability. Other than that, if an employee, which was the actual question about an employee being sued, if they've done something illegal, break the law, generally an insurance company is not going to support them. Even questions of moral turpitude, they are not going to support them. If it is simple a mistake, maybe even some negligence in the job, sometimes the insurance company will go ahead and cover that. But again, the biggest thing we can do is just make sure that everything we're doing is above board and the way it should be doing.
Thank you, sir. Lydia, would you like to weigh in on this topic?
Well, I'd like to take this in a little bit different direction and talk about expensive litigation. I really believe that litigation is a product of failed compliance. And compliance is driven by well thought out and properly implemented systems across all county departments. Let's take a look at Gravelgate for a moment. Gravelgate is a failure of systems. Someone had to create a work order to lay the gravel on the Bianchi's property. Who reviewed that? Who said it was okay? The county should not be enmeshed in litigation over pouring gravel on something the county believes is a county road. That should have been reviewed. The key to compliance is to know that what we are doing is right before we do it. And as presiding commissioner, I will dig into these failures of compliance to understand not just what happened, but also why it happened. From there, I will take on the mantle of bringing together the other elected officials in the county with an aim to create a culture of compliance, to do the right thing in the county. Only when the elected officials, all of us, embrace compliance as a core value for Camden County will the costs and the distractions of litigation be brought under control.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, I'm not sure what your experience level is regarding litigation on such a high level or employee litigation, but I will be more than happy to give you 1 minute to address this topic.
Well, for one, the county, don't matter who you're suing, because this country is sue crazy, as we all know. But if you do stuff by, you pray about it before you actually do something, or by code, wouldn't this county grow in chambers like it should be, not be suing the county for something ridiculous? My honest opinion. I mean, I've been here for 33 years, and what I've heard in the last 16, 18 years of my life, growing up in this community, I've heard more lawsuits
20 seconds.
in this county more than I have in my entire life just being at places. I mean, come on now, guys. Vote someone that's going to pray for something before he actually does it. That's me, Nathan Patton. God bless.
Thank you very much. That was a whole lot of information, and I think very good information. Les has brought up a good point. I think we're going to look at here. So obviously, you guys have already had previous experience, so I'm going to have you guys answer last. I will start with Ike, because one of the reasons obviously people throw their hat in the ring here is because they want to make a change to the Board of Commissioners. So what do you see is the biggest board issue that needs improvement? Mr. Skelton, we'll start with you. 2 minutes.
Transparency, public involvement, and making sure that everything is done above board, not in the back room, and in front of you. Government at all levels should do their business in front of you. That's why they're there, is to serve you, to ensure that your interests are taken care of, that your services that you need are met, and that they take care of your business. Can't do that if they're doing it in back rooms. Can't do it if they do it in meetings they're not supposed to be having. You have to do these things all above board. Transparency and public involvement will be #1 in the commission building. I also believe that we should have things live streamed. I understand that now just before election time and things do seem to be live streamed. I think they also need to be recorded. And I also believe in checks and balances. I will have the circuit clerk's office, or excuse me, the county clerk's office back in the commission taking the minutes as they should.
Thank you, Ike. Lydia, if you'd like to address that question again, what is the biggest board issue you feel needs improvement?
Well, I definitely believe and agree with the transparency issue. I also believe that we need to understand that while we're government, we're also a business. We have to think about all of our limited resources of time and money and staff and personnel. We have to think about all the different elements within our community that need to be addressed. We can't show partiality. We can't have certain favors done for certain people. And I believe that transparency is the answer to that, that we are above board and that we hold ourselves to a high level of accountability and integrity. I also believe that I'd like to start by saying to some might be a mundane issue, but I'd like to see us reorganize our county commission meetings. This 10 o'clock in the morning business, Tuesdays and Thursdays, doesn't work for most of you in this room. And I would like to have evening meetings and a variety of things. Take a survey and find out what works for you so that you can participate in government. Because as I said, government is big, but the county is government, but it's also business. And I want to see us run Camden County more like a thriving business and meet our challenges quickly and do it deliberately for sustainable results.
Thank you. Mr. Patton is probably one of the newer contenders here. What have you observed of the board, and therefore, what would you believe is the biggest board issue that needs improvement should you get elected?
Well, that can be in a variety of different directions, but I've actually got to watch some of the board stuff that on Facebook and everything, and I appreciate the people that actually put that on. But 10 o'clock, in my opinion, I'm usually at work by that time, and I don't got time to actually sit there and watch it. But there's a lot of people that actually need to sit there and watch that, or people who need to attend that, because it'll give them a sense of what's going on in the community, especially for the businesses. Because my goal is to work with the businesses more than anything else. Because if you don't have the businesses, you don't have nothing. Business is what makes it here, of course, to the people. And I want, especially if I get the job, I will get the most business in here. Because I've lived in this area most of my entire life, except for maybe 6 months. But I've seen, watching them boards, the stuff that's been going on. Some of the stuff should not be going on. I'm not going to get into details because that's me. I'm not a person's going to pick on somebody because I was there. But I'm going to tell you something right now. If I get this job, I'll find a way to make sure every people get to see it on live, some way whatsoever.
Thank you. Mr. Hasty, as you are currently the presiding commissioner, and should you get reelected, are there any things that you see right now that you believe you could improve on this next go-around?
Well, the people that are talking here now really need to understand the functions of the commission. And the commission, we really have 3 functions. We have a legislative function, like when we enact an ordinance. We have a judicial function, like at a planning and zoning hearing, where we make decisions that way. And then we have the administrative side of it, where we have to make day-to-day decisions. Now, those day-to-day decisions are either 1 commissioner or 2 commissioners or 3 commissioners, but it's about stuff that's already in the budget. When someone comes into the commission office and they want something fixed, they want it fixed now. And we have enacted a system where we try to get these issues addressed with problems with a road right away. And that would be the administrative stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis in terms of just simply operating with all the other elected officials. We have to have meetings for the commission during the day when all of the other elected officials are there so that we can interact with those people. The people that are doing business with the county, they are doing business during the day, and they want to show up during the day and have and present their issue or their plan or whatever their product is to the commission during the day. I don't know of any place around the state where commissions
20 seconds.
Are held, commission meetings are held at night unless it's a public hearing. And if it's something like that, we certainly should have them in the evening.
We'll do the follow-up after we let Mr. Franken answer. So, Mr. Franken, as you had been presiding commissioner before, you have gotten to observe your own board at that time, and then as you've attended board meetings now, what do you feel would be the biggest board issue that needs improvement should you end up elected this season?
Well, we're getting tired of hearing the word, but transparency is the word. And when I was elected, we were the most transparent commission in the history of Camden County. The county clerk took our minutes. We did it by state statute, 100%. We were the first and only commission to audio record our meetings and make them available on the county website. We were also the first commission to make our meeting minutes available on the county website in a written form. That is what we could afford to do at the time. Video technology was expensive. There wasn't anything that we could do that would be responsible with your tax dollars to move forward with live streaming video at the time. Those are the facts regarding that. And that's how we handled it. We never had any sunshine violations. We had a minimal number of closed session meetings, only for employee matters and a few for legal. And we always followed the law. We always had our public hearings for everything. We did everything the way that we were supposed to do. Now, I will tell you, when you do this job, you make people mad if you do it right. If you don't have anybody mad at you, you're not doing it right. And sometimes those people get a little salty. And when they get salty, sometimes they do things like file frivolous complaints. But guess what? You have to walk it down and you have to do it with a smile on your face.
30 seconds.
And that's what we did. And every complaint that came forward, we were, I guess you would say, acquitted of. That sounds like a strong word because it really wasn't necessarily a break of the law. But we did not have any issues. And going forward, I can assure you that we will be, if I'm reelected or elected for a second time to the presiding commissioner job, we will live stream meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've all touched on a good chunk of this particular question, so this could almost just be, for the most part, a yes or no, but so I will just go with only a 1-minute window on this. As you pointed out, access to commissioner meetings have been difficult. So what steps, I know you just touched on it briefly, but what steps will you take to properly record or broadcast the meetings to better transparency and allow better access for all community members? A subset to that is, will you be looking to put the agenda items on an online format with links to the various topics, which would give the public a chance to check the agenda, see what you're reviewing, go to the links so that they can read and be educated, so when they attend, they can ask good questions of you, knowing that you may have gotten more information leading up to the meeting. So it was a little bit long, but for the most part, what are you doing to, what steps would you take? You brought up it was not very cost effective in the past, but technology has gotten cheaper moving forward. So what steps do you believe you can take to record, broadcast the meetings, allow better access for all community members, and are you going to provide IT support or links so that people can be up on the meetings before they get there? I will start with Lydia.
Well, we know that technology can be our friend and it can be our foe. And I think in this particular topic, we can definitely call it our friend because we want to educate people on the goings-ons in the county as quickly as possible and as much information as we have available at the time. So I really like the idea of the links. I like the idea that people can access data and information from the comfort of their own home and participate in this process of county government. And I really think that that builds engagement with every single one of you, that if we have an opportunity to push more information to you, more data to you, I think then we build engagement which builds a really solid, strong community government. So yes, I would definitely be in favor of using technology, to maximizing technology.
Thank you, Lydia. Mr. Patton, it's often said that younger people may be a little more up on technology, so how would you like to weigh in on this?
Thanks for saying that, Jeremy. I don't like technology that much. But, well, for one, it needs to be broadcast a little more than it is, and I tend to make sure everyone can see it. Don't matter if you're at work or hoping people share it, because I don't get to see them too much on Tuesday and Thursday because I'm usually running my head chopped off at work during the heat. But we need to broadcast it a lot more, and I tend to make sure people actually can see it, because we people need to see what's going on behind the scenes. And
5 seconds.
I've seen it more than anything else in the last 13 years.
Mr. Hasey, we'll bounce to you. Should you be reelected this session, what would you be doing to improve the communication with the community regarding these board meetings?
Well, we've pretty well already done it. We have purchased and put in place a really sophisticated audio-visual system for our commission meetings. We have done a couple of test runs on it already, and we're anticipating that shortly after, probably within the next 3 or 4 weeks, it's a pretty complicated system to run, and we don't have anyone right now that can run it for us, but it's up in place and running. So the commissioners or somebody else is going to have to learn how to do and operate that software till we can use it regularly. but everything is in place. It's up and running and ready to go. And with regard to our commission meeting and minutes, we do post those online right now. And sometimes the things that you put on the agenda are things that are pretty simple and easy to understand. But sometimes you're dealing with things that when you're dealing with someone who is coming to the meeting, you don't know what the circumstances are going to be until you have the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Skelton, how do you believe you would improve on this?
Well, certainly we already have the video streaming, live streaming started. I would definitely keep that going, and recording of all the things. And of course, I mentioned bringing the circuit clerk, or excuse me, again, the county clerk back into that office to record. One of the biggest things that the public needs to probably know is that right now the agenda, issues of the agenda are incredibly vague. You know, people's times are very, very important, and then certain things may not mean that much to you. It might not affect your life, so you don't need to be involved necessarily in that meeting. You could see it online if you wanted to. You could read the minutes afterwards, but there are some things that are going to be very, very vital to you, and you maybe want to attend in person. If it is vague on the agenda meeting, you are the agenda, you won't know what's going on. So I intend on making sure that the agenda listing is much more cohesive and definitely more inclusive as to what is going to be going on and what is going to be talked about, so that you can make an informed decision as to whether you choose to attend or not.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Franken, as you had opened up with transparency of the competitors for this position, what would you build upon there as well for this?
Well, it has been indicated the video and audio system has been purchased. It is in place. It is operational. If elected, I can assure you that I will make sure personally that that system is being utilized. I will learn how to use the software. I will make sure that it works just the same way I did with the audio the last time I was in. I was the one that did that, did not saddle an employee with that task. To echo what Mr. Skelton said, there is an issue with vagueness on the agenda. When I was in office, we did not have that problem. We put as much detail as we could fit that made sense into our agenda line items so people knew what we were talking about. They knew what was going on. And that way they knew if they wanted to attend that meeting or not. That is something that I have done, plan to continue to do. One thing that I would do that we didn't do previously is also it's actually being done now, we continue it, is to make sure that those agendas are posted online so that you guys can get on there and you don't have to actually request copies of that.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up, and it's a yes or no, and I've asked the commission to do this several times. When I was on the school board, when we set up the agenda, right below our agenda item, we would have links to what we were talking about, the information given. Would you be willing at the county level to link those documents that you're going to decide on to the agenda? Just a quick yes or no.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you very much. So moving forward, I would like to bring up, actually, this one I thought was pretty interesting, and pretty much it's a complete opinion piece. But as you are all part of the community, and you all have your likes and dislikes of the community, I mean, some people may like hiking in Ha-Ha Tonka, and other people may think walking should only be on a golf course. It's entirely subjective. But this question did come in. What do you believe is our county's biggest positive and biggest negative aspect? So this is more of an opinion piece, but what's your favorite aspect of the county? What's your least favorite aspect of the county? You have 1 minute, and we'll just go right down the line again. So Mr. Franken, we'll start with you.
I would say that the most positive thing is the fact that we do operate as a pretty free community. Yeah, there's rules that we have that some people don't like, but for the most part, we get to do what we want to do. We get to get out and recreate on our lake the way we want to recreate. We have, as was indicated, beautiful parks, state parks with walking trails, all of those things. I think that's our hugest asset. We export fun, we export beauty, we export nature. That is what we have here. As far as negative things, I think the single biggest negative thing that we have in this county is the fact that politically it does get a little rotten. And so There are issues where people, when you don't do something they want or you don't give them something that they want, it gets a little bit ugly. And
10 seconds.
It seems like that happens here more than in other communities. And hopefully that's something that we can work on, to work from fact base and try to be a little bit nicer.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, I could echo what Chris just shared. I think the quality of life here at the lake is just the most wonderful thing. The experiences that we all have every day, living in such a beautiful place, and the freedoms that we enjoy, and the conversations we have even in the grocery store with like-minded people is so refreshing, and the envy of many people in other areas. For my family, we like the lake, and we like the wilderness, and we like the golf courses and the trails. So again, the quality of life is very refreshing and enjoyable for us. I didn't know, fellas, if we were to actually give the negative. The negative that I see and that I find extremely unacceptable is the divisiveness that has raised its ugly head over the past few months. I think we all,
10
again,
seconds.
we all have so much in common, and I'd like us to continue to celebrate our common issues and deal with our differences in a more civil manner.
Mr. Hasty, whenever you're ready.
The best thing about our community is the lifestyle that we have, the low taxes, the beautiful lake that we enjoy. And over the course of the last 2 years, because of the decisions of the Camden County Commission, we were open for business. And when we were open for business, the TMZ article came, and the whole nation got an opportunity to see who we are. And they liked what they saw. They liked the freedom, and they came here. And as long as I'm presiding commissioner, we're going to continue that aspect of freedom. And as far as the negative things are concerned, it's been very disappointing over the last 2 years what has gone on
10 seconds.
with social media in this county. It's a poison on our community, and it needs to stop.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Skelton, when you're ready.
The most important thing and greatest thing about Camden County are the people. Not only the people that work in Camden County for Camden County, but just the people in general. We have probably the most diverse community of maybe anywhere in Missouri, with the retirement folks that we have here, all of the different services and fields and professions that they had at one time or another could lend a great amount of help to our community. We have probably the most charitable community that I've ever seen anywhere. People just almost can't wait to help out their neighbor. And I think that's a fantastic asset here in Camden County. A negative aspect, we don't really have anybody right now trying to bring those folks together to solve problems.
Thank you, Mr. Skelton.
Well, being
Mr.
working at my very first job straight out of high school for 7 years, I got to meet a lot of injured people come from the lake to visit, retire, hear stories about stuff they come down here and do. And working on where I work now, I get to see people come in and say, this is the most beautiful lake that I've ever been on. And it's beautiful, but the negative part about it is it can also be a very dangerous area in the thing too. 'Cause I worked a lot of the highway patrols and seeing stuff that I don't want to see, and I don't expect any people here that want to see it, because it's terrifying. It's
10 seconds.
makes me cringe sometimes because I've seen it all.
Les would like to share a question with you.
Next question. Oh, next question. Yeah, I'll ask this question two ways. One to Greg. Greg, since you're the presiding commissioner already, and then to the rest of you. But the question to Greg is, how do you evaluate if the results of the county board are meeting the needs of the citizens? And the rest of you, how will you evaluate what the results of the county board, if they're meeting the needs of the citizens of Camden County?
We'll give you 2 minutes for each to answer that. Whenever you're ready, we'll start the
Well,
time.
that's an incredibly broad question that is difficult to answer.
Well, I don't want it to be broad. I want to ask, the question is, how do you evaluate if the county is meeting the needs of the citizens of Camden County?
Well, that's a pretty simple answer, and it won't take 2 minutes. Whenever for instance, like with Road and Bridge, you know what, that Road and Bridge, Health Department, people like that, when we first became a commissioner, we were getting anywhere from 50 or more complaints a week on issues with Road and Bridge, culverts, potholes, you name it. But as a commissioner, our commission switched things around to where we make those complaints a priority. So we may have some big project that we're working on, but no big project goes ahead of answering complaints first. When a complaint comes in, the phone calls are made, and it's addressed right away. And we've gone from 30 to 50 complaints a week to 2 or 3 because we're going out and we're addressing those things. So in terms of doing what we need to do to know whether we're satisfying the needs of the people, it's responding immediately regardless of what the issue is and getting out there and doing something for the public.
Thank you, sir. So then, for those of you that may replace Mr. Hasty at the will of the people, what will be your guideposts, if that is am I understanding that right, Les? So yeah, what would be your guideposts to determine that you're meeting the needs of the people out here? We'll go with Ike first, then we'll come to Lydia, Nate, and finish with Chris. Ike?
Ask them. A lot of candidates go around, they knock on doors to try to get your vote, and I've heard an awful lot of times it's the last time you see them. One of the ways you can gauge how your county is doing is go out and talk to the people. Go knock on their door again, have a cup of coffee with them, see what's going on. Find out what the problems are, see how satisfied they are. Do the business in front of the people, and they'll be happier about what's going on. Find out, engage with them, ask them, let them be a part of what's happening. And that should probably be a pretty good gauge.
Thank you, sir. Lydia, what might be some of your metrics?
Thank you. I totally agree with getting out where the people are. Town hall meetings, asking open-ended questions, asking them how satisfied they are with various aspects of county government, and getting to know your people, letting them get to know you. You know, we have 42,000 people in this county, and we have a heck of a lot of roads. I think, what, 367 miles of roads? Well, I think we could wear out a lot of tires and use up, pardon me? Okay, well, I was looking at one of the reports today, Donnie, with regards to some, there you go. So thank you, but for that correction. Where I'm going with this is we could burn up a lot of tires and a lot of gas, but isn't it worth it to invest in all of you to find out how satisfied or dissatisfied you are with our services? Create relationships, and the way you do that is you get out of your office, you get in your truck, and you go around and you meet people, and you invite them to come into Camden, give them tours. I know that these guys do, they've all been involved in inviting people to come tour the courthouse, come tour the buildings, and engage with people, build engagement.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, what is a metric or a way you would monitor how well you believe your team is doing?
Well, for one, I live on a gravel road that I have two driveways in my yard, and the road going down there has a big ditch through it. It took them a year to come down there, and I called probably a dozen times. Well, if you call and you come out there, you don't. That's pretty sad and pretty ridiculous, in my honest opinion. But my choice, if I had, I would make roads, bridges, my businesses my number one priority, because without them, we have nothing.
Thank you. Mr. Franken, should you return to office, what will be your metrics to gauge meeting the needs of the people?
Well, the way you gauge that is it's a continual process of evaluation and reevaluation. You make decisions based on the problem put in front of you, and you reevaluate it based on what the outcome of the solution that was proposed or that was actually implemented. And you move on from that. You do it the way that I did it when I was in. When we got a road complaint, I want to say I went out on probably 60% of those calls with Road and Bridge. Road and Bridge, we had issues at different areas. Like, for instance, we had issues with the intersection of Ozark Isle Drive and Wahama Drive. We had a water issue. There were things going on there. We had crew out there that went out there that was going to get that fixed. They were having issues. They called me. I went out there. We set up a grade instrument. We shot grade. We came up with a solution together. We fixed that. You have to get out in the field. You have to be out there. That is how, and I engaged the people that were having the problems. You go out and you do that. You do have to talk to the people. Whether it's a road and bridge problem or a planning and zoning problem, I went out to, I don't know exactly how many because I did not keep track of the numbers, but a large number of our planning and zoning cases. I made personal site visits to those so I could see exactly what's going on. When you're looking at a piece of paper, guess what? It looks pretty flat. But when you get out there, it's not. And there are other considerations that you may have to look at before you make sure that you're going to allow these people that want a variance or want to do something like that where it may cause an encumbrance on their neighbor, like a water issue or something else. I mean, I can assure you there are people in this room that have stormwater issues. It happens. So, like I said, it's a continual process of evaluation, reevaluation, and engaging the citizenry.
Thank you. All of you have brought up a very good point, and a common theme I'm hearing from the community and from the table here is about road and bridge. This would probably be just mainly a question for you, Mr. Hasty, is do we have a charge person over road and bridge who would have a 5-year plan in place, and can we as community members find this somewhere on the commission website so that we can have an idea as to, like, what's the upcoming, is there an overall plan? Do we have access to it? Is there a point person in the county office at this point?
Our road and bridge administrator is Pat Wolf, and he is the point man. We, when Don and I, when we got into office together, we instituted a plan where it was just kind of one guy over everything at the beginning. But what we've done is we've broken this down into a road and bridge administrator, 2 assistant administrators, and then teams. So we completely restructured the way that operates. And every year when we sit down with the commission to form the budget for that particular upcoming year, we're also looking at the long-term things that we want to do. You know, it's been kind of a shoot from the hip up until recently with the Camden County Commission on where we're going to fix roads. But our commission went out and we got a survey done, a laser scan of all the roads in the county so that we can evaluate on a scientific basis where we need the most help and when we need to do it. And that allows us to put together a long-range plan of what we need to hit and when. And it takes away the phony baloney stuff of doing political favors for someone for a road and puts it down to a scientific basis. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And do we have access to that plan?
Absolutely. I think it's online, isn't it, Don? If it's not online, we'll get it online. We actually had a presentation on it, a public meeting where we showed all the stuff.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Don. We will have a time to actually open. I am working my way towards an 8 o'clock window at this point in time where you as the audience members will be allowed to come up. The podium is right there with a microphone. As I'll take a minute here to address that, I would also ask that when you do step up to the podium to ask a question of any one of the potential commissioners, I would like you to, if you feel the need, because a lot of the topics I've seen are very impassioned, for and against all different candidates here, I would ask that you be polite and attack either a policy or a procedure that was done. Attack the action, don't necessarily attack the person. That's what I would ask of you. But my plan is to open that up from 8 to 8:30. So if you want to think of some questions, if there's something we haven't addressed up here that came in from the community, by all means. And either myself or one of us will come down to help orchestrate that, okay? So now, as we, a couple things that have come up throughout at least the 3 years that I've been here, I'm going to bounce over towards kind of a medical and health related question. So there's been talk of a supposed monkeypox outbreak and also talk of yet another variant of COVID-19. I think it's now the Ninja Turtle variant or something. So at what point would you feel it is necessary to shut down the county for the safety of its people? And we'll start with Nathan and just work our way straight down the line here. So Mr. Patton.
Well, for one being a Christian, I have one thing to say. With God, all things are possible who puts their faith in Him. Because it's like the vaccination. It's your choice. You got a freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press. That's your choice. If you want to get the vaccination for COVID, go for it. But my vaccination is sitting right here beside me. I don't go anywhere without it. Like I told my fellow guy right here sitting beside me, I walk nowhere beside with him because he's the righteousness. He leads me by the still waters through the green pastures. Because being with that, I don't believe in chickenpox. I don't believe in cancer because with him, anything's impossible if you put your faith to him.
10 seconds. Oh. Thank you. Mr. Skelton.
Could you repeat the question again?
There's been talk of the supposed monkeypox outbreak and also talk of yet another variant of COVID-19. At what point would you feel it necessary to shut down the county for the safety of its people?
I can't think of one.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hasty?
Well, I'm going to answer that a little bit more complicatedly. When you look at what took place around this nation, in most cases, it was the state governors deciding what would happen and when it would happen. Certainly that happened in California, it happened in Florida. Our governor was mobilized with the National Guard in Kansas City and St. Louis, and there was discussion of shutting down the entire state. Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, Columbia, all wanted to do that. I have family members that work in this community, and I knew that we were living with a choice of potentially many deaths or the loss of business. We managed to find a way to get our business open, and I'm inclined to not cut down or shut down the county. But if the state shuts it down, we've got a problem.
Okay. Ms. Porter?
Well, I happen to agree with what Ike said, because I cannot imagine, having gone through this COVID debacle starting in March of 2020. I was in Washington, D.C., as a matter of fact, when it was announced, and Pence was going to get checked out, for Vice President Pence get checked out for being exposed to COVID. And we know what isolation, social isolation, continues to do for our children and in our school, not locally here, but I'm talking about people who continue to bathe in that, swim in that environment of, oh my goodness, COVID, COVID, COVID. And I know, having been in healthcare for nearly 40 years in the administrative area, however, I know how these things can really get out of hand, and I'm going to go on record and say, I can't think of anything at this moment that would cause us to shut down our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Franken, we'll start your time when you start.
For starters, I'm of the opinion that the Camden County Commission Office does not have the authority to shut the county down. That is my personal opinion of the statute and of the rules that the commission is supposed to be operating under. It is a matter of personal choice, and many of you made that. Even when the shutdown order was put in place, many of you, including myself, ignored that. You went around along and did your business. You did what you needed to do. As it continued on, there were stores that still required mask mandates and other things. People made the choice as to whether or not they were going to frequent those stores or frequent the ones that didn't require that. And I can assure you that my personal observations were that the ones that allowed you more freedom, they had more business, because that was who the people of this community were. If you were concerned, you had the ability to do grocery pickup. You had the ability to avoid businesses that were all the way open. So it wasn't like you were forced into it. So from a matter of personal choice, you could still navigate it within the bounds of how you felt.
Thank you. Another community hot topic is...
Jeremy, can I say something? Over here.
Oh.
I'm sitting here listening to the candidates, and I actually got to work at a restaurant. I got to work at where I'm working now, and plus I got to work at a supermarket that you had to wear a mask. Let me tell you something. It's not very comfortable, especially if someone that's got asthma or allergic to pollen or something like that, going wearing a mask, especially in a business. Because I got pretty sick myself because of it. And I'm very allergic to pollen. I mean, wearing a mask, I wouldn't force anybody that had to wear a mask. And I feel people who are wearing masks, and I hope they bless everything, because God bless them.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next topic that was pretty hot with some of the incoming questions is vacation rentals. So they are becoming a hot topic. Where do you stand on this issue? Are you for regulation, free market, or something other? So, and please explain. I will give you a 2-minute window on that. We're going to start with Mr. Franken and work our way down the table this way. So Mr. Franken, again, vacation rentals are a hot topic. Where do you stand on this issue? For regulation, what would that look like? Free market, what would that look like? Or do you have another option?
Well, for starters, almost every business in this county operates in the free market arena, and I don't see any reason why. We'll just call them B&Bs. That way we don't have to play that game. B&Bs should be the same. Now, several things about that. The county does not directly regulate hotels, motels, apartments, any of those things. So why would we want to start regulating something that is still a single-family use? It's been litigated at the upper-level courts in Missouri, both at the appellate and the Supreme Court, that it is a single-family use. So the only issue that you really come into with some of these properties is, yes, some of the people that own these don't always vet their guests well, and sometimes you might have a noisy party or something might be going on that you don't like. Guess what? You can get that same thing with the people that actually own the house next to you that decide to have people down, okay? There's really no difference. So it's okay if the people own the property, not okay if they rent it. What do you do when that happens? That becomes a law enforcement issue. You pick up the phone, you make a complaint, the law comes out, and they settle them down. It's what they do. It's what their job is. Now, I'm not saying that there are not any issues out there. I'm not trying to act like there aren't things that happen. But again, it doesn't matter what the business is. There's negatives to all businesses when you have people coming in from out of town. They're here to have a good time, and they may not always respect our rules or our property rights, but you're just going to have to go about that a little bit different way. The number of B&Bs that we have in this county
15 seconds.
Is a fulcrum for the dollars that come in. There is no way that we can come up with this number of hotel rooms. So regulating them or putting them out of business is cutting our own throat.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Porter?
Thanks for the question. I have spent the past 3 days in conversation with a variety of constituents across the county on this very subject. I think that it's such a hot topic that we would really have to pull people together and talk about how we're going to manage this as an industry. In fact, if you go out on vrbo.com, there are pages out there on how these types of rentals should be managed. Because one of the things that's impacting our own community is our infrastructure is being stressed with overutilization. Houses that are built to handle a family of 6 has a family come in of 12 or 18. I mean, imagine, we have all kinds of constraints in the way that our community is built to be able to absorb these types of volumes. And I certainly appreciate what Chris just said about utilization. We don't have enough hotel rooms at times to accommodate various programs. But what we need to do is pull together and start talking about this as a community and refer to some of these professional websites on how these properties are managed. Many of you travel and you stay in B&Bs, as Chris said, and you know that there are rules and regulations that go with that stay, even posted, if you will, on the property as to how the property needs to be managed. So I'd like to suggest that this cannot be solved at extremes, because we all know that my liberty only ends when it starts infringing on, say, Greg or Chris or Ike or Nathan's freedom. So I do believe the conversations need to start, and we need to be able to effectively communicate on how we are going to manage this industry, because it is indeed an industry and it is a revenue stream that we are dealing with here.
Thank you. Mr. Hasty, when you're ready.
I've been at the lake working in development and real estate for 50 years. I've seen when our lake was struggling financially, when the economy turned down and there wasn't any work. Over the course of the last few years, our lake has really grown and diversified. And to be honest with you, short-term rentals and having people in those homes full-time is a driver for our economy. And it's not something that we can just simply eliminate, because it's become an essential element to our economy and we can't get rid of it. But at the same time, this is a really emotionally diverse type thing that's going on. You have certain areas where people don't want it. Well, I want you to know right now that we don't have to enact anything. All the mechanisms are in place, and the court rulings are in place right now for any individual that wants to live in a subdivision. On about 90% of the subdivisions, that they can regulate it however they want. A recent court ruling came down where it basically says in your homeowners association that whatever the rules are for adopting or making or changing the rules within a subdivision, that if it takes a 51% vote, you can change the rules and you can eliminate short-term residential rentals in your subdivision in accordance with whatever those rules are. I believe that we need to have the opportunity to have it one way or the other.
15 seconds.
And it should be decided by the people that live in that association, and they already have the means to do it right now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Skelton, whenever you're ready.
Nightly rentals boils down to private property rights, and private property rights are sacrosanct. We must keep those very, very vital. The nightly rentals are a huge part of this community. They're critical to how we handle things here, because we don't have the motel rooms for as many people as like to come down and visit. And it's also a way for an individual maybe working in some other area, St. Louis, Kansas City, what have you, to purchase a home down here and be able to rent it out so that when they retire, they can then move here and be a part of our community permanently. Most all of the nightly rental folks take very good care of who they rent them to, because it's their property. They don't want it tore up. They don't want to bring people in that are going to tear things up. But as human nature is, you can't prevent that from everyone. And I believe that the most critical issue that we have with nightly rentals, when there is a problem with someone that's renting, it is a law enforcement issue. And there are rules of civility that are in place, and it is up to law enforcement to enforce those rules. I also believe that if it does need to be regulated, if you want it to be regulated, it shouldn't be at the commission level. It should be at that HOA level because that is where the people are closest to each other and can make the rules for their own unique communities.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Patton?
Well, being around where I work in, I get to go to a lot of people's houses. A lot of people don't even come down here for maybe once, twice a year. But people that come down here and rent places that I've heard from people that actually live on the lake, well, this person left this. Well, this person left this. It's like Ike just said. A lot of people that come down here don't get greeted. People actually live here. They come down here. They don't care anybody about themselves. It takes community to bring them together and say, hey, you're here with us. We want you to set an example to the rest of the people coming down here. Working where I work now, that I get to see people that come down here, talk to people that rent places, don't got a place to park their wave runner, don't got a place to park their boat. They got to play a place where they work, pay $50, $20 a week or a month, so they can park their unit. They come back down here. They got to get their unit, put it on a place they have to pay for, and they were like he just said too. They come down here when they retire, and I mean I got much respect for older people than I do from my generation, because my generation, I'll be straight up honest with you, they stink. I've got things I can say all day long here about this community.
20 seconds.
People come down here from Kansas City, St. Louis, Illinois, where a lot of money came in 2 years ago. And they came down here to rent places, cabins.
5 seconds.
Come down here to rent hotels, anything you can think about. They were down here. They got shamed because of the stuff.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hasty, this following question is a follow-up to what we were just discussing about VRBOs. And did the commission have a VRBO ordinance to regulate it in 2018? And if so, was that something that's still in effect, or was that repealed?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's see here. I want to be respectful so that we can have the community ask questions, but so this one will be about 1 minute each max. Speaking of the fact that the last 2 years we have had really great tourism down here because we were open when everything else was shut down. So the question that came in was, the lake area has had a 2-year feast economically speaking. However, many businesses are now seeing a downturn. How do you as commissioner plan to be fiscally responsible with the county budget to withstand the coming famine? And so we'll start. Mr. Hasty, as you are currently in office, we'll start with you, and then we will go to Mrs. Porter, Ike, Chris, and then Nate.
I will say this much. I've been here long enough to see several economic upturns and downturns. It's pretty hot right now. It obviously won't stay that way forever. So we need to be judicious about how we handle county funding going forward, so that when things turn down, you're able to deal with it. And the example that I have is in 2008, when the economy collapsed. I was in the survey business, and there were periods of time when our business was off 90%. But I've been around this lake a long time, and I know how to deal with it. I hung in there. I found a way to get through
10 seconds.
And get back to the other side of this, and I can certainly do it as a presiding commissioner because I've been through the cycle many, many times.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Porter?
Well, as in any business, county government needs to be good stewards of their funds. And in county government, you need to be good stewards, very judicious with your funds, because you never know when that proverbial rainy day might hit. And that's where your reserves come in, and being able to have healthy reserves and contingency plans so that when things do turn in a downward fashion, you're able to meet your basic needs and your obligations to your citizens. So I would like to suggest that we all think about sustainability in our own lives, how we can be resourceful and build resilience among ourselves so that we can weather those kinds of storms in our own families. And then as leader of the county, I would like to say that those are the kind of things that I would instill, that I would encourage people to have their own gardens, to have all types of things, and be able to take care of their families.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton?
Ensure that there's a healthy reserve, and the county is doing fairly well with that. It's my understanding. There's some good reserve emergency monies on hand, and we need to continue to build that because, as we all know, Camden County, with the tourist industry here, it absolutely is an up and down continually. One thing you don't want to do is overextend yourself in something that you're going to have to continue to pay for or continue to expand, so that when that downturn does come, you don't have to dip into that emergency. You can still maintain what you're doing. Being vigilant and where you're spending the money to begin with, prioritize those things properly. I definitely wouldn't be borrowing money right now. I think that's probably the wrong thing you could do because I believe, as you stated, Jeremy, there is a very potential storm coming. So save what you can and be vigilant.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Franken, when you're ready.
When I took office in 2011, I inherited the fallout from the 2008 downturn. The county budget was a wreck, cash reserves were in the toilet, and I made the hard decisions that had to be made to bring the county out of that. We got our reserves back up in excess of $4 million over the course of the 4 years I was there. We got road and bridge back on track. We did the things we had to do. Guess what? We had to cut the budget 1 year. We had to tighten up our belt a little bit so that we could get things where they needed to be. Short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what needed to happen. Ike's right. Debt's terrible. Go to my website, www.electchrisfranken.com. There is all kinds of stuff on there about what's going on with our debt, how we're spending our money.
15 seconds.
It's got all the facts there. So the things that we need to do is we need to reduce debt. We need to increase our reserves. But yet, when you start to see that famine coming, you have to be willing to start cutting the budget and try to be proactive.
Time. Thank you, sir. Mr. Patton, how would you address this?
Kind of like Ike just said, the budget should be the main priority for one. Two, the off season, we need to start thinking about what we're going to do to bring in stuff, especially for the younger people, but also for all generations. It's like that casino fully be coming in. I mean, some people, I'm up for it, but some people it's like, I don't know. I'm that person, I don't know, I don't really, I don't care. I don't like to gamble, and I sure in heck wouldn't gamble with county money, like I've known some people have. Because I'm very particular on my money, how I spend it. Why would I spend some money
15 seconds.
That's county money on foolishness?
Thank you, sir. At this point in time, I'm going to transition over to anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question. I already kind of laid down the ground rules, so I'm not going to go over that again. If you'd like to ask a question, I would ask that you come up to the podium. You are welcome to ask a question either to the entire board, or you can direct a question to one of the commissioners. I would like you to try to keep the question something that they can answer in under 1 minute. Sir, could you just introduce yourself and let me know, just ask, is your question for one or all of the candidates or a couple of them?
I'd kind of like to hear everyone's input on this, but it's specifically directed towards one man, Mr. Greg Hasty. Mr. Hasty, I know we have a bit of a history. All I ever wanted to do was try and sit down and be transparent with you and talk to you. You do seem to take a lot of credit for keeping the county open. At that time, I remember when it first hit, I put myself out there and I just kind of spoke about freedom and logical common sense. And I kind of saw through it before a lot of other people did, and I put myself out there, and I was the crazy guy that did it. I went around and talked to the sheriffs and had all the sheriffs on record saying that they wouldn't close down the county. So at that point, I think we had the community support. The community was seeing through everything that was going on. I don't think you had a choice. The community had stood up and spoken out.
Sir, with all due respect, what is your direct question for Mr. Hasty? I'd like to respect other people's time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I went to the county and got banned from the health department, and then you specifically banned me. You speak of litigation and lawsuit. I haven't sued you or the county when my rights were specifically taken from you. Sir, you took my rights. All I wanted to do was sit down and talk to you openly about stuff. You talk about transparency and you talk about all this stuff, but that's not the case. That's basically a lie.
Sir,
yes.
What is the question?
Okay, so my question is do you feel like what you did banning me from the county? Do you feel that you took my constitutional rights, and do you feel that that was adequate for me simply trying to come and sit down and talk to you openly? And would you still be open to talking to me openly? I would still love to talk to you on camera.
Okay, sir, that actually piggybacks to a question I did not touch on, but I will obviously now touch on it. Do you, as a presiding commissioner, so I'll give 1 minute to each of you, do you as a presiding commissioner see any circumstance where you would ban a citizen from county property if no laws were broken? Is that an adequate question?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry to extend it so long.
I understand.
Yes,
I said there's plenty of passion.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure what I'm asking addresses that. So, do you see any circumstance where you would ban a citizen from county property where no laws were broken, as this gentleman has pointed out? So, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Hasty. We do have 1 minute to answer. Do try your best, and then we will have it go to the others.
Okay, this is pretty simple. There's no reason to ban anyone from the courthouse or any grounds unless laws are broken. When someone begins to film someone and just walks into the payroll room and begins to film someone and stand over them while they have employee information out on the desk, HIPAA-protected information, that has to stop. When someone walks into the county health department, when people are in there trying to get medical care and they begin to film those people, that has to stop. The county commission is in charge of the grounds, and we have the option under those circumstances to ban someone for the property.
10 seconds.
Just like the school did, or we have the option of arresting them. But we don't have the option of not doing anything. We have to take action.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Porter?
Well, I agree that there is no reason to ban anyone from county property unless a law was broken. I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Skelton?
A person can do an awful lot of disrupting without breaking the law. So, I mean, if an individual is in a meeting and I mean, they have, the people need to be able to speak, and you need to be able to listen to them. That's first and foremost. If they want to ask you questions, you need to answer them. If someone is disruptive to the meeting, because everyone is there, has the opportunity to be heard. If they're disruptive, maybe they need to be removed for a bit. Banned, can't see that if they didn't break a law. That being said, on one of my first days in office, Mr. Butterfield, you would be reinstated back into this county, and you would be getting a letter of apology from the county.
Thank you, Mr. Skelton. Over to you, Mr. Patton. I will close with you, Mr. Franken.
For one, no one should be banned from anything, because Mr. Butterfield, and I can name someone else that's a good friend of mine too, there's a way to take care of stuff. For one, why don't you ask the person, hey, I'll meet up with you later and we'll talk somewhere in my office or private somewhere with someone else, one of your commissioners, to talk to them right beside them so nothing happens. There's plenty of ways to take care of it. Being a leader is the main priority in this county. We need a better leader and a better everything.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Mr. Franken, we'll start your time.
If no laws have been broken, nobody should be banned. It's that simple.
Thank you very much.
Hi. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things that were said earlier. I just want to clarify. I heard a couple things earlier that I just need a little more information on. Okay, so Mr. Franken, when in your opening statement you were talking about education, and you were speaking about your, I think they were engineering certifications, some kind of certification.
The metallurgy, I believe.
There was some kind of.
Okay, well, that's not a certification. That's a degree.
Okay,
it's a bachelor's
well,
of
you
science.
said that
so my
you,
certifications that I have. Well, actually, basic and advanced. And I also hold certification for the inspection of septic systems for real estate transactions.
So you said, speaking of those certifications, that if we had those certifications here in the county, that FEMA couldn't come in here and...
No, different certifications.
Okay,
so there
what
is another set of certifications.
Let me ask it more clearly. Sorry,
it's okay.
I didn't remember it all. So how would it work that you as a presiding commissioner with these certifications that you're about to identify would prevent FEMA from exerting their power over our community because you have, as presiding commissioner, those certifications?
Well, let me first say that there are no guarantees that the federal government is not going to try to come in
That's
here
kind of my point.
and
I don't
do
think
whatever
there's
they
any
want.
statutes that say
but here's
those
the thing.
certifications
If you don't
prevent
have those certifications, they just walk right past that. At least if you have the certifications, you have the opportunity to say, now, wait a minute, guys. You said that if we held these certifications that we would maintain local control during things that happen like this.
Okay, so it's an advantage in some sort of negotiation that there's not a statute or anything that says FEMA can't come in if your presiding commissioner has these certifications, right?
There is a U.S. code, and I can't quote it, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is, that says that if you have those, that you should be allowed to take care and maintain local control during a disaster.
You being the presiding commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. And then the other thing I wanted to ask Lydia about, when you were talking about the overnight stays, the B&Bs,
yes.
I thought your point about the overwhelming of the infrastructure was well made. But you used the words, we need to manage this, and that made me uncomfortable. I don't know who we is, and I don't know how the commission would manage anything except through an ordinance, and that doesn't quite jive with the property owner's rights, other part that you said. So could you elucidate a little bit on what you mean by we, and we need to manage that B&B business?
Well, I wanted to be specific about taxing, if you will, putting extra added stress on the infrastructure that we have here at the lake.
Right.
Whether it might, and I know the fellows have mentioned homeowners associations, property owner associations. Well, not every single person lives in an area where they would be, that the we would be HOAs or POAs.
Right.
So I think that we, as county government, needs to pay attention to when utilities, let's say, our water, our sewers, water treatments are being overtaxed, and that's something to definitely consider. I'm not saying that we put in any extra mandates. If you recall, I said we need to get together and talk about all this.
Yeah. Well, you said we need to manage this.
Well,
so
management can happen without ordinances. It can happen just through people behaving themselves.
Behaving themselves. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So young lady in yellow, and then Jim, you will be next up.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Hasty. I had talked to you a while back at a commissioner meeting about my really big concern about forced vaccination, because my family deals with a lot of autoimmune issues as well as genetic issues that would cause potentially fatal complications from having injections of different sorts. And we were very concerned about seeing that the commission would support our freedom to reject said injections. So I know that that was your stance. You said you weren't sure that that was our constitutional right. So I was wondering from the other folks here, where is your stance on that? Is it our constitutional freedom to decide what is injected into our bodies? Is it not? And would you protect our freedoms to make those choices?
We already have, and I have no intention of ever requiring anyone to have a vaccine or not a vaccine. That's the way it's been in Camden County all the way through. There's never been anything with regard to vaccinations at all.
15 seconds.
We have operated in this county in a way that the rest of the nation has looked at and said, wow, they're staying wide open, and our COVID rate is as low or lower than anyone else. We've been successful at this.
Thank you. Again, we're going to go flanking, so we'll go Ike, Lydia, Nate, and then Chris. If you'd like to weigh in on the question of, if I was understanding, medical freedom and autonomy. Okay.
I would certainly never require anybody to get a vaccination for anything. I mean, that's even just kind of crazy, but but it's done, and it's unfortunate. To protect you, I believe part of the job of the presiding commissioner is to not just administer things, but I believe that we are also that gap, that we should stand in that gap between other government entities and the people of Camden County. When another government entity wants to come down here, I don't care who they are, we should be there standing there, making sure that they have the authority that they think they have, and if they don't, then the people need to let them know they don't have that authority, and we're not going to pay attention to what they have going on.
Time.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Just a friendly reminder, so I apologize if it seems shorter. I am trying to keep it. So you do have like about a 30-second window is what I'm trying to keep this down so we can get to some more questions. So Lydia?
I definitely support medical autonomy, medical freedom. I have never in my entire life been someone who says that we need to mandate vaccines, or I think a lot of people refer to it as the jab. I think that's up to individuals, and that they need to make those decisions for themselves and for their family.
Thank you, Lydia. Mr. Patton, if you'd like to weigh in.
Or for one, I would never let anybody tell anybody to get a vaccination, because it's just like that monkeypox wherever you said, will it go? I mean, if people need it, we need to read up on stuff. Vaccinations, whatever it's in it, because I've known friends that passed away from supposedly the COVID vaccination. I mean, my vaccination's right here, and I wouldn't get vaccination if they paid me $1 million. I mean,
time. Thank you, sir. Mr. Franken?
No, it would not require anybody to get a vaccination. I don't think that's the commission's. Again, I don't think that's the commission's authority. I don't think they have the purview to do that. And I do support medical autonomy.
Thank you, sir. Jim, you had stood up for a question?
Yeah, my name is Jim Rogers. In the last year, there have been so many accusations thrown out there against Greg Hasty of corruption and doing things for his special interests. My question is to each of you, do you have any proof of that that's written and isn't just some hearsay that's been stirred up on social media? And I'd like each one of you to tell me, do you think he's corrupt? And if you do, how can you prove it? Damn right.
So,
I'll answer the question.
I will give people 1 minute to answer if you so choose, if you wish to answer this. Ike, if you'd like to answer.
Sure. When I've worked for the state of Missouri, there was one thing that they told me that was very paramount. You can do things the wrong way, and you can maybe be wrong in what you did, a little negligent and get in a little trouble, but one of the biggest problems you have in government is the appearance of impropriety. Sometimes it doesn't matter whether you did something wrong. If it looks wrong, the people think you're wrong, and you start to lose confidence in your government. Sometimes there is smoke, or fire, where there is smoke. It's the appearance of impropriety that can sometimes be worse than the absolute impropriety. And I believe that a lot of folks, and I can give you an example if I had more than a minute, but I think a lot of folks here have seen smoke.
I didn't ask for smoke.
Thank you, sir.
I asked a specific question which you did not answer. That is, what proof do you have, if any, that he did anything illegal?
Jim?
I'm not a criminal investigator. I don't have the ability to look into these things. I don't have search warrant capability or anything else. Although there are some,
With all due respect, when you do ask the question, they do not necessarily have to answer it. We can respect that. If they wish to answer it, I will give them time to answer it. And unfortunately, sometimes the answers may not be satisfactory to the person asking.
To answer your question, I think I know what you're saying. Working a lot of the law enforcement around the lake, there's some stuff you can't look into, or there's some stuff that should be looked into, but it's kind of hard when you got law enforcement or government, they don't want to look into it because of the background of it or too political for them.
Thank you, sir. Lydia, if you'd like to take a shot.
I'd like to say a few moments ago I talked about the lack of civility that has been demonstrated across our county in recent months, and it really has saddened me that we have fallen to to that level. And I can honestly sit here and say, with regards to all these fellows, I don't know of anything that they have done in the smoke and mirrors. You know what? I don't even know anything about that. So I just wish that we could all work together for the common good of the community and show some civility toward each other.
Thank you. Mr. Franken, if you'd like to weigh in, 1 minute.
www.electchrisfranken.com. And I know why you're laughing, because whether you're voting for me or not, you've been there. All right? So it's the reality. www.electchrisfranken. Jim Rogers, you've been there too. Everything's there. Source documents scanned in at the bottom of the pages. Actual quotes. It's all there. Go read it for yourself. You decide if there's any law that's been broken. Pretty sure you're going to think that there's some things there that need to be looked at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hasty. Mr. Hasty, if you would like to weigh in on this, it was a question that is surrounding you. I am more than willing to give you a minute to address any allegations.
Mr. Franken likes to make a lot of accusations. A lot of accusations have been made over the last 2 years. There's a group of people in this community, of which many of them are sitting in this room, who have their little local party that appears to be in the middle of the Republican Party, and they've gone around and they have smeared and slandered anyone that's gotten their way. They did it at the School of the Osage. They did it at our school board. They've done it to the commission. They've done it to the hospital, and they have slandered and slandered people again and again.
15
but
seconds.
I do have some facts right down there. Camden County has become one of the most successful counties in the nation. You need to pick up these documents about what Franken did to some people at 1127. Can't remember the name of the address, but they're down there. Pick it up and see what he did to some school teachers.
It's 1127 Paradise Lane.
Come on, guys. I've let all 5 of you speak. Now,
I have a yes or no question for you, Greg. The judge in my case, he wanted to know what you've done that's illegal. Did he say that when you banned me, it was illegal and a clear abuse of power? Yes or no? Is it in the order that they put out?
That is a court case and a preliminary hearing that is yet to be tried, and we will try it.
In the words that he said, did he say it was illegal and a clear abuse of power?
Preliminary hearing.
But was that in the ruling, Greg? Yes or no?
Some other things that were said too.
Yeah, there's a whole file. Yeah, I didn't see anything against me. It was all against you.
Just don't discuss this case between Camden County.
He asked if you'd done anything
answer it, Greg.
illegal.
Guys.
We're not discussing.
He asked if you did anything illegal. So I ask you what the judge said. Did he say that what you did was illegal?
Are there any documents that are currently available for people to view?
There are documents
Okay.
available. There are documents.
If there are documents available, feel free to communicate, and we can you can discuss that on the individual in the community, but we will not address that here. Ma'am, your question?
My name is Susie Brooks, and this is for Mr. Hasty. 2 years ago, I had the privilege coming into the courthouse for the first time with my brother-in-law and sister, and we owned quite a bit of property that we were wanting questions to. It was problems that we were having. They escorted us into your office as you sat there in your chair, leaned back, never got up to introduce yourself, be respectful to us girls, or anything. So I would like to know how you intend on the future to communicate with the people here in the audience that have elected you, how to better communicate instead of, I cannot believe you were so disrespectful.
Mr. Hasty, you do have 2 minutes if you'd like to reply to that.
I don't recall her ever being in the office.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Sir, at the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Don Newhart. I live here in Camdenton for better part of 40 plus years. Respect all of you for stepping forward to run for this office. Some of you have been there, some of you come up. The one question I have is related to some of the alphabet soup of agencies and whatnot and entities that are allowed. And that has to do with tax increment financing. In maybe one quick short word of yes or no, to the extent that it falls to the county, at the county level, you can't control, of course, any of the municipalities within this county. Will you or will you not support any additional tax preferential treatment for any one business entity that would favor or place them at an advantage above all others who have come here in one form or another and ponied up their own money to create their own business, to generate their own business, and build their own dream here at Lake of the Ozarks? Just appreciate a brief answer from each of you on that. Thank you.
Sir, I just want to clarify. So you're asking if they support TIFs and then yes or no?
Categorical or qualified, either way they choose to rest.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Franken, we'll just run down the line there. So,
categorically, I really am not in favor of TIFs. I'm not going to say I would never vote for one, but it would take something that would be very unique or very unique situation. It would be something that would be the only way that it could be fixed. And under no circumstances, zero circumstances, would I ever issue bonds or support bonds to be issued for any project to finance, actually physically finance the remainder of that private project.
Thank you. 30-second window on this.
I have to agree with Chris on this, that it would have to be something exceptional, something of great value to the county and its citizens to receive that kind of consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Hasty?
My view is pretty much the same as all of theirs. The circumstances will sometimes dictate, and I'm going to give you an example of a successful one. This was in Miller County, and this was the Pruitt Point that's about 20 years old. It was just retired after a 21-year TIF. And now all those businesses are sitting there generating money for Miller County. So it depends on the circumstances, but I too will never compromise the financial integrity of Camden County by issuing any bonds.
Time. Thank you, sir. Mr. Skelton, when you're ready.
I believe the Lake Ozark area is a gold mine, and those businesses need to bring their own picks and shovels. No, sir, I generally do not support TIFs.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Patton?
Being working where I'm at, if you want to give a tip, or any of that kind of stuff, that's your choice, the American people. I mean, any of that kind of stuff, my answer is a heck no.
Thank you, sir. Gentleman in plaid, and to be respectful of everyone's time, you, sir, will be the final question of the evening.
My name is Gary Cunningham. I'd like to ask all of the candidates a question about the relationship between the commission and planning and zoning. We have a lot of established residential neighborhoods. We have a lot of undeveloped land. Much of it is lakefront that are currently zoned R1. And the tension is between these residential areas and placing boat docks, other kinds of large residential developments, commercial developments in the middle of residential areas. I can speak from personal experience with regard to our area where we had a large area, 5 acres about, in the middle of a residential area, houses all around it, zoned R1. There was a boat dock that rented out slips down at the bottom that was grandfathered under the zoning. And several hundred yards away, up the hill.
So what is the, I apologize.
So my question
for cutting
is this. We went to planning and zoning. We got a ruling from the director that the boat dock could be greatly expanded under its current zoning. We tried very, very hard. I wrote letters, legal letters. I'm a lawyer. We had a petition signed.
So that I'm just trying to figure out the question,
My question is
sir.
this. We couldn't get the attention of the commission to do anything about zoning and about the discretion of the planning director. We appealed that to the Board of Adjustment.
So is the
my question is, isn't there a role someplace?
So what is their relationship as the county commissioners to planning and zoning?
Your
and
relationship to planning and zoning and the commissioners, and what alternative is there among these constituents? We had 200 people write the commissioners and never an answer about where the commission fits in to planning and zoning and a group of unappointed people.
All right, so if I'm...
So I want them to talk about their relationship and how they feel.
Okay, I do want to respect everyone's time, so if I'm following, I just want to try and make sure I'm following your question. So there was a challenge with planning and zoning, especially in this residential area that you were a part of, and what it sounds like we're looking for is where would the commission step in to protect the citizens and or work with the planning and zoning?
Bring the power of their office into this planning and zoning process, because we couldn't get the commissioners to pay any attention.
I want to make sure I'm respectful of people's times. I did book this just till the 8:30, so really no more than 1 minute I can give you guys, and we will be closing shortly after, and I'm just going to go right down the line there. So what is the commissioner's role regarding planning and zoning? How can you intercede on behalf of the community?
Well, I just want to all I can really do is just address the question, his situation. So if the expansion or the use of the property meets what its current zoning is, then that's a property rights issue, and they can do that. But if the expansion pushes it into a zoning that is not currently applied to that property, like for instance, if it pushes it past the scope of a residential dock to a commercial dock, where technically a rezone is required. When I was in the last time, it was always our policy that if you came for a rezone and there was objections from the community, you usually didn't get that rezone so that you could do that. So because of the time constraints, in a nutshell, that's how it works.
Okay.
Gary, I certainly am not an expert, a subject matter expert regarding residential commercial zoning or any of those things. I have been studying up on it and talking to a variety of people. It's something I'm very interested in. I do want to tell you, with respect to you and your family being active members in our community and taxpayers, I would like to offer up that I know that I personally would be very interested in the process and look at the system that's in place to make sure that your consideration is heard loud and clear and that it's evaluated as I would all of our taxpayers.
Thank you. Mr. Hasty?
His consideration in that particular case is just like all cases. This is set up by Missouri state statute. We have to follow the statutes with regard to when it goes through the planning and zoning board that we adopt, when it goes to the Board of Adjustment, when it goes to the commission, and then the final recourse is if you don't get satisfaction from the commission, in which some cases you can, and some cases, boy, the way this statute is set up, you can't. You always have recourse to our court system in the final step.
20 seconds.
He is an attorney. He has that opportunity to have recourse, do civil process all the way through. So there's sometimes things commission can do something. There's some other things that they can't,
5 seconds.
That gets referred to the courts.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton?
First thing you need to do is listen to the people. If you had complaints and you brought it forward and it wasn't being listened to, you need to sit down and listen to it and find out what truly is going on. It is accurate. Once you have rules in place, some of them necessarily can't be changed very easily. One thing we definitely need to look at is the Unified Land Use Code. The one that was most recently done had very little to no input by the public. That needs to be rewritten so that the public can make something very unique for Camden County and the Lake area. The international building codes and other international codes that we use right now and all this other garbage that we look for, sustainable development, all this stuff, that is all that garbage. We need to come up with something that is useful for the people of Camden County specifically.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Patton, if you'd like to weigh in.
I appreciate you bringing that question up because I've had plenty of people in my area that I've actually talked to about planning and zoning. My opinion, it stinks. About the dock thing, it would probably have plenty of people come in and see if it has to be expanded or not, like a few other guys said. But I've known plenty of people actually left the area because of planning and zoning. Because we had planning and zoning here that you have someone come down here and say, I can't do this, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. Well, why can't you? Let's listen to people about that kind of stuff.
20 seconds. Oh, all right. Thank you. To be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to give a 1-minute closing for each of our guests who have taken time out of their busy schedule to come and meet with us as a community. I greatly respect your time, appreciate your interactions. I think overall this has been a very successful evening. We do have several people who have videoed this and it will be available online later. And so that way you can share it with community members who were unable to attend. So as we close, I'm going to start on that end of the table, come all the way down this way. You guys have 1 minute for your closing argument, I guess you could say, or at least your reasonings, why we should choose you come August 2nd, which is, I believe, next week.
Next Tuesday.
2 weeks, sorry, 2 weeks.
I'm Nathan Patton. I'm running for this job because, yeah, I've had plenty of people tell me that you're young. Yeah, I'm young. But I'll tell you one thing, I got enough backbone, enough people that I actually know that I can actually trust. And I can name 5 people in this room right now I've actually talked to in the last 6 months that are more like brothers to me more than I've had in my life when I was in school. I've got made fun of. I've got made all kinds of names that I've only told 2 people. But if you vote for me August 2nd, I'll make a difference in this Camden County, and I promise you guys that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Mr. Skelton?
I believe that one of the biggest jobs of being a presiding commissioner is to be the liaison for the people. And just what this gentleman talked about here, you know, when you have issues with different departments, you need to take that individual and maybe go down and talk about things and find out what's going on. I'm a people person. I enjoy people. One of the most fun things about a campaign, as hard as it is, especially at 100-something degrees, is going out and knocking on doors. But when you do that, you meet people and you get to talk to them. and you find out that we're all human beings. We have common ground in an awful lot of things. For the most part in America, we want to be left alone. We want to be able to do what we want to do without bothering other people, and we will enjoy our lives and interact as we want to. So as presiding commissioner, I would try to foster an environment in this county that is inclusive, that brings everybody in to the best that we can, and try to do the very best we can for all of Camden County, and prioritize you, the people.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hasty, when you're ready.
As Camden County Presiding Commissioner, I've worked hard for this county. I've been the guy standing in the gap, having to make these difficult decisions during the most difficult period in 100 years. It has been the great honor of my life to serve the people of this county that I love during this recent pandemic. Camden County was different. We were open for business, resulting in a record economy, and our COVID-19 rates have been as good or better than the rest of the nation. Experience and knowledgeable leadership are critical to the future of Camden County. The decisions of the Camden County Commission affect your land, business, home, and lifestyle. Never in the history of Camden County has that been more important than in the last 2 years. I have the experience and a proven record of leadership to lead this county into the future, and I would appreciate your vote August 2nd.
Thank you, sir. Lydia?
Well, as I mentioned in my introductory remarks, I am solution-focused, and I believe the answer to the challenges that we face currently and in the future reside with the talents and the abilities of the taxpayers in our community, that together we can solve a lot of these problems before they really become disasters, whatever they may be. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, I believe in resilience, I believe in preservation of freedom, and I want to say that together, men and women of this county can work to bring their interests and expertise to the forefront to find practical and sustainable solutions to our current and future challenges. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Thank you. And Mr. Franken.
Camden County, this is a job interview. You're hiring somebody to do this job for you. If you're looking for the guy with the best and most applicable education, I'm your guy. If you're looking for the guy that has the most experience, I'm your guy. If you're looking for the guy that has the best past practice, transparency, all those things, I'm your guy. I've got a history of doing those things. If you're not voting for me, and it's because of something that you've heard, my phone number is 573-216-1145. You need to call me. We need to talk it out. Because I'm going to assure you that part of what you heard was probably jaundiced by somebody who has a personal issue with me. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. We're not all going to get along. But if you're interested in clearing the air and hiring the best person for this job, drop the dime.
Time. I want to thank you all for coming. Obviously, you have an array of people. I would ask that if they happen to have their advertisements, their campaign items, feel free to grab those, support the candidate you wish to support, go to the polls for August 2nd, and we'll see what Camden County looks like on August 3rd. Thank you very much for your time.
Gentlemen, you guys did a great job as always. Very much so.
Discovered.
Thank you.